Mr. Deputy Speaker, the word paradigm shift is defined as a great and important change in the way something is done or thought about. This expression has often wrongly been used in society, especially by politicians who, let's face it, some of them have a tendency to use grand expressions to paper over their shallow thoughts. I hope I won't be joining their ranks today when I refer to the potential of this bill, especially the introduction of performance-based budgeting, as having the potential in bringing about a real paradigm shift. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the people of the Republic have high expectations. For years, we have had to endure the sheer mismanagement when it comes to the public administration of affairs of the Republic. There is a seemingly unquenchable thirst among the population for accountability when it comes to the allocation of public funds. And this bill aims to lay the groundwork to restore confidence in the action of government. For far too long, the art of budgeting has relied on approximations. It is high time that we do away with the trial and error culture of the previous government and that we move towards a more rigorous methodology. As I see it, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the introduction of performance-based budgeting heralds the dawn of a top-down approach to the public allocation of resources. That is one where the ultimate objectives of government become the driving forces behind all the programs and sub-programs being initiated. In other words, we're moving towards a world where we define our journey based on where we want to be. I would now like, with your permission, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to touch upon a few points which are not mentioned in this bill, but which I feel are of paramount importance if this proposed piece of legislation is to be a real game changer. Firstly, I would like to draw the attention of this House on the need for synchronicity. Most of the consultants we've had the opportunity to interact with, as well as all the savvy well-wishers of this government, have invariably highlighted the need for government to stop working in silos and to work as one synchronized unit. To this end, I believe that there is a need for performance-based budgeting to be applied to a macro framework. That is, an identification of objectives of government at a higher level than at ministries level, be it for a high-powered committee or an interministerial committee. It is thus essential to identify the outcomes we want at macro level first, be it social or economic, and then have those objectives drilled down across ministries. For example, the concept of un pays que de faire bon vivre is an outcome which I would classify personally as a macro outcome. And then it is for government to define the outputs associated with such an outcome and have it drilled down through different ministries. This would ensure synchronicity of actions and avoid the dreaded, I beg your pardon, silo syndrome. Another point I wanted to highlight, and which has been touched upon by several other people intervening today, is the dire need for data collection, data analysis, and research within the public sector. In a world driven by big data, Mauritius is unfortunately lagging very far behind. Performance-based budgeting can only be effective if the outputs are clearly defined, insightful, relevant, and most importantly, available. For example, within the Social Integration Division of a ministry where I am currently posted, we only have 2 statisticians for the whole ministry. One can only imagine how restrictive the exercise of performance appraisal has been and will be if we don't change things. So I would advocate for a major revamp of our approach to data collection, data analysis, and research. The previous regime destroyed the credibility of Statistics Mauritius while setting up a new body, Maurice Strategy, whose ultimate aim was to glorify padanomics. The former Minister of Finance did not believe in economics, and ultimately, I think it is fair to say, economics stopped believing in him. I would strongly support the shutting down of Maurice Strategy and lobby for a major revamp of Statistics Mauritius to empower it to become the leading data collection, data analysis, and research body in Mauritius. Such an institution should have the ability to provide accurate, in-depth insight in the works of all the ministries and be the trusted provider of outputs indicators to government in order to optimize performance-based budgeting. In the same vein, preserving the integrity of data collection is equally important to safeguard the new approach being proposed. As such, rigorous and reliable auditing of the data being collected and analyzed is a must. We would advocate for a risk-based approach whereby outputs identified as being high risk would command a high level of control, and those identified as low risk would command a low level of control. By doing so, government would provide the necessary safeguards while optimizing resources. The final point I would like to touch upon, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is probably outside the scope of this bill. However, since we're talking about laying the groundwork for performance and accountability in the public sector, I feel it is highly relevant to talk about the alignment of objectives of all stakeholders, particularly civil servants. We dream of a country where ministries outperform and where civil servants deliver the goods. And the cornerstone of such a dream has to be the alignment of the objectives of government with that of civil servants. So, is it time, Mr. Deputy Speaker, to consider incentivizing public officials with both financial and non-financial perks linked to performance-related objectives? While it would prove, I agree, quite complex and challenging to assess the performance of public employees on an individual basis, the idea of an across-the-board annual performance reward or bonus, should the country achieve some measurable and well-thought-of macro targets, should be entertained, in my humble opinion. To conclude, Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me reiterate one more time the potential for a paradigm shift of this bill. It is an approach, as rightly mentioned by Dr. Honorable Giton, which is widely used by OECD countries across the world and other developed countries. I am reminded that performance-based budgeting approach was implemented in Mauritius as early as 2008. When we think that the European Union only adopted it in the mid-2010s, we can only dream of what might have been had we persevered in that direction for the last few years. Unfortunately, it was discontinued. No need to mention by whom. But had it been maintained, we would surely have a functioning, results-driven public sector today. But I also want to reply to the Honourable Leader of Opposition, because in his usual intellectual dishonesty, he referred to a report, the Collaborative Africa Budget Reform Initiative, which was published in 2013, and he said that in that report, Mauritius only scored highly on 9 out of 16 criteria. But I have a report here, and while it's right to say that we only scored highly on 9 out of 16, but as Honourable Uti mentioned, when you start a new program, you're bound to have teething issues. I'd like to draw the attention of the House on the conclusion of that report. So the conclusion, and I quote, "Whereas implementation of strategic budgeting in Mauritius needs to be consolidated and deepened, the country's progress in this area has received international recognition and has led several requests for the sharing of its experience with other countries, including from Botswana, Ethiopia, Liberia, Lesotho, Madagascar, and Namibia." So back in 2013, countries were looking to Mauritius to learn from our experience, and like we had something to share, we had something which we could be proud of. And a little bit more than 10 years down the line, the government of destruction has been at work, and today you have this leader of opposition criticizing a new method which was pioneered for the Southern African region and Southern Hemisphere region by Mauritius, and he dared criticize that in Parliament today. I think he should have done his homework a little bit more. So to finish, I would like to say that, like in life, it's never too late to start again. And as one very famous Chinese proverb says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker.
Yes, Mr. Deputy Speaker. First of all, I would like to thank members genuinely from from our side, I should say, who have intervened on this bill. It's really encouraging to see our backbenchers at that level, the junior ministers, the minister also, of course. The leader of the opposition is not here, I wonder whether I should say it. But see, he seems to have completely forgotten how they manage the economy. I'm glad Honorable Mia just said it. Il n'y avait pas de discipline, gaspillage. Et il dit, oui, oui, c'est bon de réduire la dette, mais toujours yes, but. He cited these reports of these 15 African countries, and I'm glad I didn't read it, I must say. Honorable Parapen just mentioned the conclusion. And he completely forgot about the conclusion. Even what he cited, 9 out of 16, at least we did something. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, discipline demands effort. If we just sit like this and let things happen, we will have the result that we got. I wanted to say he's a oiseau de mauvais augure, but I think what Honorable Jaman said, prophète de malheur is better. Typical of them. They mismanaged the economy, they drew the country into the ground, and now they say, oh, let things be as they are. In other words, continue to throw money without accountability. And he mentions what happens if you have COVID. That's why I say prophète de malheur. But nothing is rigid in an economy. If we are faced with an emergency, we'll have to react to that emergency. But not to steal money as they did on COVID. That's what they did. So, I'm trying to say I can't see much what he said again, but Honorable Utim, I must thank him for having gone through this, what the previous Minister of Finance did. I didn't read it, I must say, but it's mind-boggling when you think he was in charge of finance. We must identify priorities, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and we must grasp the nettle. We mustn't allow ourselves to say, well, let things go as they are. It will be easier for me, line by line. But we need to do what we need to do. The previous government, in fact, took a major step backward when they reintroduced this line-by-line budgeting at the expense of performance-based budgeting. And there was opacity in the budget. Allocations given, inefficiencies, wastage. This bill shows our commitment to sound fiscal stewardship. As many orators said, we want every rupee of the taxpayers' money to be spent in the best possible way, optimal. I wish to show the House that we'll introduce also is a simplified performance-based budget that will be easy to understand and to implement. The Ministry of Finance will actively work with different ministries and departments and provide the necessary support to ensure we can get the success that we expect. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, let me elaborate on some of the major changes that the reiteration, because I saw in the speech, especially of the opposition, they don't seem to understand. First of all, the Minister of Finance itself, its role will evolve. It will now have to obligatory to engage more closely with ministries and departments on budget matters. Policy objectives, strategies, action plans will have to be discussed more thoroughly in order to achieve this greater efficiency that we want in resource allocation and effectiveness of policies and measures. Second, it will be easier to integrate new concepts. I think somebody mentioned gender budgeting, gender green budgeting. All this will be easier to implement. Third, performance-based budgeting will make it easier to avoid, as I said in my opening speech, avoid such things like white elephant projects, policy inconsistencies that have been the normal as if for the last 10 years. And as I said, there will be greater consultation, obviously, coordination among the various departments with the Ministry of Finance. Fifth, each program will have an accounting officer who will be accountable for the delivery of program outputs and outcomes. 6th, the staff performance management system will be fully integrated in the PBB framework. The role and prerogative of the National Assembly will automatically be enhanced. Why? Because members will now be in a position to ask the right questions, and there will be more information on resource allocation, and there will be more information on what the targets are. Questions will be focused on the performance in the terms of implementation as well as outcomes. And finally, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the public will have a clearer view of the connection between the amount of tax money which is being spent and the services we are providing. Programs will become customer-focused and more aligned to the expectations and the needs of the population. The previous government, Mr. Deputy Speaker, has just dished out taxpayers' money. I think many orators said that before me. They increased the debt level without any consideration to the outcome of the money spent. Purely reckless spending this morning, and I think I'm glad the Honourable German pointed this out. The PQ this morning on the airport tower, how the price has increased. I think nearly 70% when I look at the figures. To conclude, Mr. Deputy Speaker, let me stress, we are not introducing performance-based budgeting as an isolated initiative. This bill is part of a set of reforms to improve service delivery and fiscal outcomes. Our reforms will focus, as we have rightly said, many have said, will focus on results delivered and not on the processes. They will include, amongst others, civil service reforms is part of it, to improve the productivity of civil servants. And they want to get, we've just inaugurated with the Prime Minister of India, the Civil Service Institute. I think it's called Atal Bihari Vajpayee Institute. This is, and civil servants want this. They want to have training. They want to learn more. It's not a question that they don't want. This will improve the productivity of the civil service. Organizational restructuring, again, to focus on service delivery. As I mentioned, a fiscal responsibility act will come to consolidate the program. Together, these actions will ensure the efficiency and effectiveness of public service substantially. With these words, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I want to again thank all the members who participated in the debate, and I recommend the bill to the House.
The motion needs to be seconded. Seconded by the Deputy Prime Minister. The question is that the Finance and Audit Amendment Bill number 2 of 2025 be read a second time. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Public Bills Committee stage. Clause 1, short title. Clause 2, interpretation. Clause 3, Section 2 of Principle Act amended. Clause 4, Section 19 of Principle Act amended. Clause 5, Section 22 of Principle Act amended. Clause 6, Section 23A of Principle Act amended.
The question is that clauses 1 to 6 stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Title and enacting clause.
The question is that the title and enacting clause stand part of the bill. Those in favour say aye. Those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it. The question is that I do report to the House that the Finance and Audit Amendment Bill number 2 of 2025 has passed the committee stage without amendment. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it. Honourable members, I have to report to the House that the Finance and Audit Amendment Bill number 2 of 2025 has passed the committee stage without amendment.
Public Bills, third reading.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move that the Finance and Audit Amendment Bill number 2 of 2025 be read a third time and passed.
The question is that the Finance and Audit Amendment Bill number 2 of 2025 be read the third time and passed. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it. Honourable Prime Minister. Honourable Prime Minister, move for adjournment.
Mr. Deputy Speaker, I beg to move for the adjournment of the House to Tuesday, the 25th of March, 2025 at 11:30 a.m.
Seconded. Seconded by the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister. The House stands adjourned. The question is that the House be adjourned to Tuesday, the 25th of March at 11:30 a.m. Those in favor say aye. Those against say no. The House stands adjourned. Adjournment. Adjournment. Honourable François.
Yes, as always. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir. The issue I'm raising tonight is addressed to the Honourable Minister for Shipping. It's concerned the voyage of MV Parapen to Rodrigues, scheduled on the 19th of March, excuse me, I've got the flu, with the next trip on the 29th of March, which will transit via Galega to reach Rodrigues on the 6th of April. To be followed by another voyage scheduled on the 15th of April. My plea is to humbly request the Honourable Minister to consider adjusting the Parapen voyage schedule for the 29th of March to go via Rodrigues towards Agalega in order to avoid any shortages, particularly of chilled products and some basic commodities there. Thank you.
In fact, I had a meeting in my office today at 1 o'clock with all parties concerned, specifically to address this issue and to make sure that there is no shortage of commodities to be delivered in Rodrigues. And it's a very sensitive issue, but there are other issues that have been raised and which need to be addressed on a higher level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir. I have a request to the Minister of Land Transport if he could kindly look into the absolute mess in the bus line number 2653, Flag Woodlands Flag, whereby buses are absolutely irregular, causing lots of prejudice, especially to students in the morning and the afternoon, and the people who travel from in the localities of Poste de Flac, La Maurie, etc.
Okay, I will certainly look into.